The Journey to Greatness, a story of perseverance and success. Act 1. The Dreamer with Nothing. In a small village nestled between mountains lived a boy named Rehan. He was known for two things: his endless curiosity and his love for storytelling. While other children played outside, Rehan would sit by his grandmother, listening to tales of ancient warriors, wise kings, and heroes who changed the world. He dreamed of becoming a great writer, someone whose stories would inspire millions. But dreams are often tested. Rehan's family was poor. His father worked as a farmer, struggling against harsh weather and barren land. His mother stitched clothes for the villagers, making just enough to buy food. Books were a luxury they couldn't afford, and schooling was uncertain. Yet Rehan was not discouraged. Every evening he would borrow books from his school library, reading by the dim light of an oil lamp. When he didn't have paper, he wrote stories on old newspapers. His heart burned with ambition, but the world around him didn't see his potential. One day, his teacher, Mr. Salman, noticed his passion. He gave Rehan an old tattered notebook and said, "Write your dreams in here. One day the world will read them." Act 2. The struggle against fate. As Rehan grew older, life became tougher. His father fell ill, and Rehan had to work at a tea stall to support his family. The burden was heavy, but he never stopped writing. Late at night, after serving tea to customers all day, he would sit under a streetlight and fill the pages of his notebook with stories. One evening, a customer noticed Rehan scribbling on his notebook. The man, Mr. Jamal, was a newspaper editor visiting the village. Curious, he asked, "What are you writing?" Shyly, Rehan handed him the notebook. Mr. Jamal flipped through the pages, reading the heartfelt stories of courage and hope. He looked at Rehan and said, "You have a gift. Would you like to write for my newspaper?" Rehan's heart pounded. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. With no hesitation, he agreed. Every morning, before heading to work, he would write articles for the newspaper. His stories began appearing in print, and people across the country read his words. But success is never easy. Many villagers mocked him, saying, "Writing won't feed your family. Get a real job." Others laughed. "Who reads stories these days?" Even his own relatives doubted him. But Rehan remembered his teacher's words. One day the world will read your words. So he kept going. Act 3. The Breakthrough Moment. Years passed, and Rehan never stopped writing. His articles gained attention, and soon a famous publishing house offered him a chance to write a book. It was his biggest challenge yet. He had never written a full novel before, but he accepted the offer. For months he worked tirelessly, pouring his heart into his book. Sleepless nights, endless revisions, and moments of self-doubt filled his days. What if I fail, he often thought. What if no one reads it? But every time he doubted himself, he remembered the boy who wrote under a streetlight, who had nothing but a notebook and a dream. Finally, the day arrived. His book, The Journey to Greatness, was published. To his surprise, it became an instant success. People from all walks of life connected with his words. His story was no longer just ink on paper. It was hope for millions who had been told their dreams were impossible. Newspapers wrote about him. Universities invited him to speak. His village, once skeptical, now celebrated him. The same people who doubted him now said, "We always knew he would make it." But Rehan knew the truth. It wasn't luck. It was perseverance. Act 4. Reflection and Legacy. Years later, Rehan stood on a stage, addressing a crowd of young dreamers. He held up the same tattered notebook his teacher had given him years ago. "Success," he said, "is not about where you start. It's about never giving up. I had no money, no resources, and no support, but I had a dream and the will to chase it. If I can do it, so can you." The crowd erupted in applause, inspired by the man who once wrote under a streetlight. And so the boy who had nothing but a dream became a man whose words changed lives. The lesson: no dream is too big. No struggle is too hard. If you believe in yourself and refuse to give up, success will one day be yours.